It has happened, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more CSGO news. And what has happened exactly? That was what is hinted at a couple of days ago by Decay, and his sources were correct. That being NiP making roster changes this close to the major. They now join the long list of teams out there. I promise you guys I will make a video on this. A long list of teams out there making roster changes within 3 to 4 months of the major, and this list could be longer than the list was actually for last major, which was 18 teams making huge changes. NiP now joins that list, adding 17-year-old Plopski from Team Ancient in place of Dennis on their roster. A huge surprise on the 20th anniversary of Counter-Strike in general, and even more so confirmations with their blog post. Now prepare yourselves here, guys. They have lightly confirmed the possible retirement of Get Right after the Starlighter Berlin major, as we kind of talked about in yesterday's episode when these rumors were first brought up. Of course, we're trying to eye exactly who the replacement would be on NiP. Dennis was the most obvious choice for that, and Plopski will join in his place. But after the major, it is likely Get Right will leave the team as well. He'll actually have a new role, according to them, inside the NiP organization, which will not be on their CS team, and therefore very likely must be, I think based on their wording, a retirement for Counter-Strike for Get Right himself. And it's just like, whoa. I mean, I don't really know how to digest all this material right now. I think it's a bold move for sure. It does make sense, though. I think as a fan of NiP, a lot of you guys could agree they have not been doing great as of late. Lekro starting out on the IGL role. Recently it was Get Right, and apparently according to NiP on the IGL role as well, taking that place and not doing admittedly not too well in the role itself. Dennis having his own issues, taking a break, coming back. Once he came back to the team, he popped off for a bit of amount of time, but he just was not consistent enough, not, I would say, statistically good enough to compete with this roster so far. He is the first replacement. Get Right in the future, and with that being said as well, if you get rid of Get Right, this IGL role is still the ultimate question mark inside the team, especially when it comes to post-major, as people eye the possible talents of who could actually replace him and actually take the IGL reins from the team. That could be obviously a Flusha coming back from his break. If he does so after the major, NiP, it must be probably a top priority or a top pick for the teams he could come back to. Obviously Cloud9 wants him as well. Many teams want a guy like Flusha to come back in IGL for them, so I think that would be a very cool pickup. And then you look at it, I talked about this yesterday, Team Ancient, they have now joined the also long list out there of teams who are selling off players at dire times. Very recently it was actually a team like Sprout. Sprout gave their player Dennis to Big. They are now competing in the European minor against each other. Right before the minor qualifiers, though, or during that, they give away a player or sell them off to a bigger organization. We've seen this many times throughout the past 3 to 4 years, if not the history of Counter-Strike, and Team Ancient now joined that list in sending off Plopski to NiP, who they will eventually compete against if they do manage to make the major, as they are currently Team Ancient in the European minor. And giving away a guy like Plopski, you got to think about it. It's an iffy move for a team to actually want to compete and make the major itself, but do you blame them? No, they probably got a good chunk of change out of the player himself, and it's a very questionable thing, but it does happen quite a few times in Counter-Strike. With that all being said, though, it was a pretty immaculate run, even them making the European minor, I would say, that being Team Ancient, and I really do hope they make the major qualifier with their new member. That will be Grux replacing Plopski on that Ancient roster as well. And then very lastly, again, so many points to think about this, Get Right, possible retirement. Flusha could join NiP. Dennis has now gone for a 17-year-old Plopski, because we have now seen so many organizations take risks on very young players. And then very lastly, the ultimate question, how the heck do you feel if you are Draken in this situation? If you remember, he was the first one to replace Dennis when Dennis took a break for fatigue, or needed a little bit of a rejuvenation for a little bit of energy coming back, because he had been playing CS so much, like many of these players do. He comes in for Dennis, was supposed to be for a few months. It was actually for a few weeks. And when he did that, when he made that commitment, Gamer Legion with Scream in existence, they went on without him. He lost his spot on that team. Then he goes to Ancient, and all of a sudden his younger teammate is now taking the spot back from NiP, which will be a permanent spot, or so we assume, as Dennis goes to the bench. How do you feel for that? So many angles about that, guys, and so many big stories. Now, speaking of rumors out there and roster changes, which very well could be underway as well, brought to us by Will Land from Rush B Media, a very trustworthy source. I will link his article down below if you guys want the full details. It could be Cloud9 roster changes, and who here is surprised? Anyone? If you're saying yes, leave. This makes perfect, legitimate sense after not making the major and their lack of success over the past 2 months. This team is absolutely in shambles, especially when it comes to the way they lost out on that major, losing to 2 North American mixed teams. Apparently, according to Will Land, though, at Rushby Media, it will be 2 targeted sources to be replaced, that being Vice. Statistically speaking, stats-wise, he was the obvious lacking force on the roster so far, has not really had a clear-cut good event so far, and alongside him, Golden, who has not had once, but kind of 2 chances with this roster so far. Although, you know, to defend him a little bit, I've always been a Golden fan when it came to him first joining the roster and then being given a second chance as well. He has never had, though, a lockdown long-term roster, which I will always feel bad for him for, and I still think he has a place somewhere else, maybe on a Swedish roster in his future. You know, with that being said, a potential another NiP replacement for an IGL could be a Flusha, could also be a Golden as well. Those are your 2 targeted replacements, Golden and Vice, and who they're looking to replace them with, it could be Daps from NRG, alongside them the young up-and-comer from Canada, that being Tens, who people continue to talk about, and yet again, just like Plopski, just like all the other North American and of course European youngsters out there, another young up-and-comer that a big organization is potentially willing to take a risk on inside their roster. You know, Vice was also one, but apparently they trust Tens to actually replace him and be a bit more of a surprising talent. So it all makes sense. I will not doubt these rumors, and again, I very well much do trust our source, Will Land, that Cloud9 will be making changes sometime soon, and they're going to stick it out, though. Apparently, Automatic, obviously the star on the team. Rush has such a high ceiling cap, but is so utterly inconsistent, and Cajun, their newest member as well, will be sticking out as their 3 main core, and apparently Tens and Daps could be joining the Cloud9 roster very soon. Now, very lastly as well, in news for all of you guys, I'll be coming back here tomorrow as well because there's been so much CSGO news out there. I left some out of today's episode. Please don't hate on me. Some big news coming tomorrow, though, as we break down more discussions. This next one, though, about Syman Gaming. Yeah, the last time I talked about Syman Gaming was because one of their former members, that being iDisbalance, he was accused by several big teams out there of cheating. He was never proven to be a cheater. He has ever since moved on from the team as well, but it's actually Syman Gaming being accused of actually match fixing and throwing with some very clear evidence.
Kit to speak of, so it is going to come down again, most likely early.
And with that being said as well, I will link the tweet down below for all of you guys. Apparently, all the bets placed on this match have also been revoked due to suspicious betting, and of course, the clips we did see. It's never a good sign to see suspicious betting alongside suspicious gameplay. Yes, they might throw out the excuse of technical issues, but they were being blown away after qualifying for the CIS minor, which they are currently in. This is actually a big thing, guys. Keep with me here. After qualifying over Winstrike, although Winstrike changed their roster, they still had a very solid chance themselves of qualifying, a very solid CIS team to make the minor. Syman qualify over them, and then they lose to a team like Espada, kind of definitely a lower tier team as well. In the fashion they did, it is very, very suspicious. I expect an investigation to follow sometime soon, and if it actually does conclude they were match fixing or throwing and they receive a ban, that being the organization or the roster in general, which again would be potentially happening for them. If that does go through, that does mean it would be Winstrike or some other team at least for a playoff for that CIS spot, which could mean if it is Winstrike to get that spot or win that spot back, it could mean Edward to not miss a major for the first time ever since 2013, and he could still have a chance to make it yet again. So a huge, huge story. Syman Gaming yet again involved in some controversy out there. You guys can review the clip several times. Maybe we'll find the VODs out there and review them in full for all of you guys. It is very suspicious. I am very skeptical of that roster in itself, of what they did. We'll have to wait for an investigation, though, to conclude exactly what happened. All right, hope you guys all enjoyed. Such a crazy day. The 20th anniversary of Counter-Strike. Who would have guessed? Not a big update, but some huge, huge changes coming to the scene, guys. NiP, Cloud9, never will be the same. More news coming tomorrow. And along with that, Syman Gaming, what are they really up to? Hope you guys all enjoy. I'll see you back here sometime soon. Until then, take care, drink water, drink whatever you want. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time.